We'd like to welcome everyone to the 47th running of the New Balance Falmouth Road Race. Just if you didn't see the news today, just for those of the certain age, today is the 50th anniversary of the start of Woodstock, just so you know. Those of us of a certain generation used to do a lot of sitting around on campuses and being against things, and a couple of years later people decided to get up and run, and we thought we'd change the world sitting in, and instead we changed the world getting up and running. It worked out just perfectly, and the Falmouth Road Race is certainly part of that grand tradition. This was also the first year we are without our founder, Tommy Leonard, and yesterday was Tommy's 86th birthday, and I know there will be a lot of toasts in Tommy's name throughout the weekend, as there has been since his passing in January. So God bless you, Tom. You did great work. As always, the way Tommy started this race was not to make it a world-class race, even though it was Frank Shorter's world-class performance at the Munich Games in 1972, which got Tommy's juices flowing and decided to start the race, but really his inspiration was the Falmouth Girls Track Club. And from the beginning, the New Balance Falmouth Road Race has not just been set its sights on the world-class elite athletes, but also the athletes here from Falmouth, from the Cape, from Boston, from New England, and the local flavor continues to be very, very strong this year in both the mile and the 7-miler as well. So we got a great weekend ahead. So let's get started. We have a wonderfully serving board here. They change leaders every couple of years, and it seems to work out just perfectly. A man now in his second year as president of the New Balance Falmouth Road Race. Let's welcome Jeff Nickerson. Jeff? Welcome, Jeff, in his pants.
I can lend it to you if you want. It's up to you. So thanks very much, Tony. We've got a great board. We do this as volunteers, and it means a lot to us. Community is what we're all about. Since 2012, we've given back $2.7 million. Last year alone, the Numbers for Nonprofits program raised $4.9 million, which was $800,000 more than the year before. So that's why we're here. We're also very proud of our early commitment to the athletic adaptive program. So in '75, the wheelchair division began. Dick and Rick Hoyt have run this race 37 times consecutively, and that's a big part of what we're trying to do. We're trying to make this as inclusive as we can. The board, some of the members are here: Scott Gelfi, the immediate past president, Bob Antonucci. Not here today are Carl Cavosa and Jeff Cutter, but Donna Tochi is also here today. So thanks to you guys. You guys give back a lot. So me and my pants have wasted enough of your time, so if Dave, our race director, could come on up, Dave.
So thank you, Jeff. So again, thank you to the board. Thank you to the staff. Jennifer and Matt and others are here. Thank you to my DIMSY team for all the work that they put into making this the best road race in America, and at least at the non-marathon distance. And some would say you could include all the marathon distances too. So besides this race being one of the greatest and most iconic races in America, for me, very few other races I've ever been involved in give back to its community in such a huge way than the New Balance Falmouth Road Race. And years ago, back in the 70s, when, as Tony was saying, when a lot of us were doing this, it was all about competition. We came here really just to drill each other into the ground. And now it's all about participation. The walls of intimidation have crumbled. People are believing in themselves. And I always say, when people say to me, what do you do for work? I say I don't, because I don't consider what I do work. I used to mumble. I'm a race director. People say, what is that? Chalk mark on the road, yell go. And now I say we help raise the level of self-esteem and self-confidence of tens of thousands of people in America. And that's what an event of this nature does, and it's because a lot of people in this room and those not in this room that make that happen. We give people an opportunity to make a commitment, work hard, earn the right, toe the line, run the course, cross the finish line, and magic happens. They go home feeling good about themselves. And there's nothing in this world, any greater foundation in this world than that. And that's what the New Balance Falmouth Road Race actually does. So we all should take pride in that effort. And that generously began with TL, whose passing will be marked with a moment of silence at 8:45 at the starting line. As Tony said, yesterday was his birthday, and I can't help but think that Tommy had an ulterior motive, and he wanted everyone to celebrate his birthday, so he created this race down here. So we'd have a reason for everyone to come down to celebrate one of the greatest legends in our sport. It's funny because Tommy was up here a couple of years ago, sitting on a chair, and I was speaking, and I looked over, and he fell asleep. And but even though he wasn't awake, he was physically here. On Sunday, he may not physically be with us, but spiritually, he will be with us. Everyone's worked really hard to memorialize his memory and make sure we never forget. And with the stencils on the road of his image, looking up, smiling at all the runners, and the runners smiling at him with the race program and the poster. His likeness is on every single runner's bib number. He will be omnipresent. I like that word. He will be omnipresent. He will be with us more on Sunday than he probably ever has been in the last 47 years. So a few things as far as strategic. The Falmouth Walk, which Tommy and Eddie Doyle started at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning at the Town Hall Square. The SBLI Family Fun Run, the Tommy Cockery High School Mile, and the Etna Falmouth Elite Mile starting at 4 o'clock at the high school. So all those activities will be going on tomorrow. As far as the race itself, I hate using this expression, but at this point in time, if we don't, then we're in a lot of trouble, and that is we're all set. I think we're all set with everything. Now it's execution. The planning is done. Now we have to execute this beast. The one thing I want to let the media know, and it's been reported, but we can't emphasize it even more, is that because we're trying to put a round peg in a square hole with regard to a lot of runners in narrow streets, a narrow, tight start, we need everyone to cooperate. And it's all about personal responsibility. So we can get everyone out there and without blocking up the roads and gridlocking the community. And the last bus is going to leave at 8 o'clock. And we mean the last bus is going to leave at 8 o'clock. So if you can just get the word out there, everyone's going to have their reasons why they were late. They couldn't find a place to park, or the traffic jams, or whatever it might be, then get up earlier and get here earlier. You have to take personal responsibility. Speaking of which, the last thing for me is the weather. It's been a tough year. You saw what it was like in Boston with the weather and how you deal with it. So it's all about preparation. So we've been meeting and meeting and meeting. I really don't know what the weather's going to be like. Every time you look, it's something different. But know that we have prepared, and we will be ready for whatever comes upon us with our medical team and with our public safety team. And again, similar to what I just said about getting to the bus loading on time, I stood up in front of 30,000 runners at the 2012 Boston Marathon, and I said, this is a team effort. It's you and us. We can't fit 30,000 people in the medical tent. So it's up to you to decide, given if it's hot, if it's whatever it might be, you have to plan accordingly and race accordingly. Your health is more important than a road race. So please take care of you so we don't have to do that for you. And that's the word we want to spread to everyone out there who is running in the race. So that's about it for me. I want to bring up Scott Gelfie to make a special presentation that Tommy would have loved. Thank you very much, and thanks to the board for having me.
Thanks, Dave. So this year has been kind of weird for me. for the first time that I've been involved in the race, I think it kind of snuck up on me with work and family stuff. It wasn't until Wednesday when I showed up at the volunteer dinner and I felt the excitement. And I think what was missing is I didn't have my visits with Tommy all summer that I normally have. And you could feel the excitement in him when you sat and talked to him. A month out, 2 months out, he was already pretty jacked about the race. And I think for that reason, it kind of snuck up on me. But when I walked into the volunteer dinner the other night, it was like I got slapped upside the head by him and said, look at this. The volunteers, the staff, the scholarship winners, everyone was so excited. And then showing up to the expo, seeing Craig and Candace and Steven and, people that I haven't seen in a while, I am full-blown Tommy Leonard, holy cow, excited. So I first met Tommy when I was in high school, when I thought he was kind of this special running guru. And although we remained friends over, all those years, it wasn't really till the past 10 years that we became really close. And during my time serving as president of the board, I would always keep Tommy in the loop of everything we were doing. I always wanted him to know that his same philosophy of giving back was what was driving us. It always gave me reassurance that he would always thank me for all the work that we were doing. I would, of course, laugh and tell him it's us that should be thanking him. In Tommy's honor, the Falmouth Road Race will continue to keep his spirit alive with everything we do. And another way that we can all honor Tommy is to support his Falmouth Walk, another fundraiser that he started and just continues to grow. This year, they have record numbers registered, but you can still walk up tomorrow and do the walk-up start. It starts at 10 a.m. And now, for a special presentation, I'd like to call up Tommy's co-director, co-founder, Eddie Doyle, and its president, Tom Walrath, for a presentation. So this poster, it's signed by Karen Ronaldo. It's in honor of Tommy, as you can see, and it will be raffled off at the walk tomorrow, and I'm hoping it's going to fetch some big numbers. All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Scott, Tom, and Eddie. Eddie, great seeing you. So we said it's the 47th annual New Balance Falmouth Road Race, but it's the 45th year that we will have wheelchair athletes competing as well. And that's a grand tradition here at Falmouth. It was in 1975 that Bob Hall ran the Boston Marathon, and Will Cloney, the longtime race director, said, if you break 3 hours, we'll give you a finisher certificate. And Bob ran 2:58. And this is in an Everson Jennings 40-pound hospital chair. So this is working hard. Well, that summer, Bob came to Falmouth and ran 47:13. And that's not going to do much business for you on Sunday, but back then, again, another remarkable accomplishment by the guy who really helped pioneer the sport here in New England and around the country. Bob went on to win 7 more times. So it's a great tradition here at the Falmouth Road Race to have the wheelchair division. And right now we would like to bring up Stephanie, who is, tied into the wheelchair race here at the Falmouth Road Race. They've been sponsoring the race for many years, the Spalding Rehab Hospital on Cape Cod. And today with us to show their support, Stephanie Nadolny, who's the Vice President of Hospital Operations. Stephanie? Welcome and thank you.
We are also super excited about this weekend and this event. The late Christopher Reeve, who was an amazing individual, said, "A hero is an ordinary individual who finds the strength to persevere and endure in spite of overwhelming obstacles." Our motto at Spalding Cape Cod is "Find your strength." That's one reason it's so meaningful for us to be the official wheelchair division sponsor. And we have been doing, we were just talking how many years now, but I think about the Cape and who should be the wheelchair division sponsor, and it absolutely has to be Spalding, because we feel so passionate about this race and the sports and supporting the athletes. It's thrilling to congratulate all the wheelchair athletes for their strength and determination that have brought you to this moment and to this historic race. We're proud to serve the community that 45 years ago led the way in creating a venue where wheelchair racers could demonstrate their capabilities and competitive spirit to claim their rightful place in the spotlight. It really would be hard to overestimate the impact of this leadership on up-and-coming athletes looking for role models, and on the broader community, which every year gets to marvel at the grit and skill and spark that's within each and every one of the racers. I'm usually right here at the finish line, and the excitement in the crowd as the wheelchair racers come through, and the awe and the cheering, it moves me every year. Another reason we feel a special affinity for this race is Spalding's commitment to adaptive sports as a way to extend rehab and recovery beyond hospital walls. The Spalding Adaptive Sports Centers are a Paralympic sport club. The McGraw Center for Adaptive Sports at Nickerson State Park, which is down in Brewster, is a groundbreaking partnership with Spalding and the state's Division of Recreation and Conservation's Universal Access Program. These resources deliver powerful experiences that can enrich and transform lives. Spalding in Boston offers the Adaptive Sports Medicine Clinic and the Kelly Institute for Adaptive Sports, which is researching the intersection of injury and disability and how we can train and support athletes to reduce injuries and optimize performance. Lastly, we are involved because it's just plain exciting to see the whole community celebrate the achievement of athletes, all athletes, who are persevering and enduring the sport they love. On behalf of the patients and staff of Spalding Cape Cod, have a glorious race in this beautiful spot on Sunday, and we'll be there to cheer you on. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie. Now the time to get to some athletes. As I said, a glorious tradition of wheelchair competition here in Falmouth, and let's begin with some old friends. A six-time Boston Marathon and six-time Falmouth Road Race champion, Candace Cable, is with us. Candace, come on up, and great to see you again, Candace. A five-time Falmouth champion is with us again, Ann Thompson. You might have known her as Ann Walters back when she was winning the race. Hi, Ann. An eight-time male champion from Washington, Craig Blanchett. One of the greats in the sport. Hi, Craig. Nice to see you. Five-time Falmouth champion, now making chairs himself, Krieg Shabort from Georgia. Krieg, nice to see you. And our four-time and defending champion on the women's side, one of the historically great athletes of any stripe, Tatiana McFett, is with us. Oh, that's here. Testing. Oh, that works. Well, Tatiana and team, nice to see you. Tatiana, talk about the tradition here at Falmouth and what it means to the sport of wheelchair racing.
Yeah, it's whenever I do wheelchair racing, it's always an honor to be somewhere, because if it wasn't for the people before me, I definitely wouldn't be here. So, we were talking this morning about Bob Hall, and he made everything what it was today, because he had the courage to do it, and that strength and that ability, and he really did push the sport and what it meant to have a disability. So I definitely always have to thank him for that. And for me personally, it's a great tradition. My grandparents met here, and so we have a little bit of family history here. So coming back, it's always really nice. The course is challenging, but it's also a little bit personal as well.
That's great. Craig, talk about how the chairs have changed. I remember the days. Again, Bob started with this 30-some pound hospital chair, and they didn't get too much different for a long period of time until those racers you've got out there now, which are so expensive and so sleek.
Yeah, my early days of racing, I also raced in a day chair. It wasn't a 40-pound Everest and Jennings in like a 1979 model. I had a 1987 model, a little bit lighter, a little bit sleeker, but still heavy. And I remember going to fun runs and 3Ks and 5Ks just to race against the runners, you know, to be able to be part of something. And then I had my first racing chair actually homemade, made in my town in South Africa. The day I got my first racing chair was actually also the day I did my first marathon, so a little bit crazy. The guy said he's not going to finish that marathon because my wheels was going wobbly and I was going all over the show. And I promised myself during that marathon, I am never ever going to do a marathon again. It was I think it was finish line, go home, and this is over for me. And now it's like 200 marathons later, and I'm still. So no, the chairs today, you know, those days, you know, as like a regular day chair. Now it's all carbon fiber and high performance materials. The chairs are expensive. It's $10,000 for a chair, up to 25 for the guys that got the money, right? Not me. $25,000 is a lot of money for a custom-built racing chair. But you know, if it's worth spending all that money, and they spend all that technology to build that chair exactly the way you sit in your racing chair, and so it's just, you know, awesome to see over the last 30 years what, you know, how things changed. And I don't want to say or think what's going to happen in the next 30 years, but maybe motors or something.
Let's not do that.
Yeah. But no, okay.
Great. And are you surprised? I mean, back you were running in the 80s and early 90s. Are you surprised? There seemed to be a slump, and all of a sudden the World Marathon Majors has included now for the last couple of years wheelchair competition, and it seemed to help revive the sport a little bit. Are you surprised where the sport is right now?
I think it's a great accomplishment where the sport is now. Did seem to be a little bit of a gap in there, but I think with the publicity in races like Falmouth that has had a never-ending wheelchair division once it started, there was no gap in the Falmouth wheelchair division. And I think that helps expose a lot of people to the sport and sees the athletes and how accomplished the athletes are. And I think it's really helped. Social media has helped a lot as well, because it's very exciting. You know, when we were racing initially, there was nothing. You know, our neighbors might have known we did the race, but that was about it. And now it's great that, you know, I can follow what Tatiana's doing. You know, was at the University of Illinois as well, where I was, and it's great that I can follow what she's doing just by opening my phone. So that's helped tremendously.
Talking about a never-ending program. University of Illinois, if you guys have never checked it out, please, after World War II it got started, and it is the definitional program in the world, I would think, for Paralympic athletes in wheelchairs.
Right, and it's been great that, you know, Tatiana's been coming out here to Falmouth. I started planning my summer vacations around the Falmouth Road Race. I was at Illinois, and I would get home. I grew up in Connecticut, so it was kind of a homecoming, and I would plan my pretty much week home for the year around the Falmouth Road Race. And it was great because I could have family and friends that actually did the race with me, or, you know, behind me.
Behind you.
But
important point.
Actually, what interesting story, my husband did the race one year. I can't remember, I don't think we were married yet. He was my fiance at the time. And I had crossed the finish line. He hadn't crossed the start line yet. So it's kind
That's
of
when I knew he was mine.
Exactly. So, but I think it's been great with the more attention and more road races, including the wheelchair division as part of the race, not a separate entity.
That's great. Candace, nice to see you again. Candace, is it true? I said here you're on the vice chair of the board of LA 2028. You're involved with the games coming into Los Angeles.
I was involved with the bid committee to bring the games to Los Angeles, and then they've formed a new board, and I'm not a part of that right now. They're not looking at the Paralympics right now. They're just starting to form their marketing and what they're going to be doing. So they're building right now.
Candace, do you get the feeling, I remember in the early days, it was always this, isn't this wonderful for the wheelchairs? That was the feeling, was people didn't look at it from an athletic standpoint. It was always, oh, it's inspirational. And it may well have been, but do you feel like that has also changed? That people are actually looking at the wheelchairs and the Paralympic Games in general as athletes, just pure athletes. Once you level the playing field, what makes a great champion is the same irrespective. But do you think that isn't that wonderful element is starting to slowly die away? You don't want to kill it, but it's not preeminent.
Well, I do think we're making progress, definitely. And
is it important?
It's really important because disability is really just a life experience that we're all going to have. And so the inspirational piece really came from, thinking that we were above and beyond because we had these horrible disabilities and we made something happen out of it. And in truth, that's not really what happened, is we just kept going on. Some people were born with disabilities. That's 15% of people. The rest of us acquired our disabilities. And when we acquired them, we went through a lot of recovery with rehabilitation physically, but psychologically, and a big piece of it was sports for all of us. Really getting involved with sports gave us so many things. I mean, before my spinal cord injury at the age of 21, I was a non-disabled kid that wasn't involved in sport at all. In fact, I hated competitive sport because I didn't want to argue with anybody about something. So I was like, we're all going to be winners. And after my spinal cord injury, I was going to university, and I met a whole bunch of people with disabilities, and they were doing sports, and that was in 1976, 77. And I thought, well, I want to hang out with these people. I need a community. I think I'll hang in there. And I tried things like wheelchair basketball, and wheelchair tennis was just being invented. And I was like, oh, I don't like those very much. But wheelchair racing was starting, and as Krieger said, the chairs were 40, 50 pounds, stainless steel. My first road race was 1977 in my little stainless steel Everest and Jennings 5K at Griffith Park in LA. I was easily 2 hours out there wandering around. But the thing that really was important for me was that I felt like I was back in society again, because we were all on the start line together, non-disabled, disabled, because there were other racers besides me. And we did the same course, and we crossed the same finish line. And that was a moment of inclusion that I just felt like, wow, this is so awesome. I want to do something. And then to be a part of pioneering the sport, working with race directors like Guy Morris here on how to integrate a race division, how to do a wheelchair division, what would be the guidelines, what would be the rules, in evolving the equipment with everyone here. It's it's really changed the inspiration piece that you brought up into that this is a sport that has legitimacy, and it's something that anyone can do. I mean, whether you have a disability or not, you could wheelchair race. I mean, you really could. And that was one of the things we did in the beginning. But all in all, I think that what we need now more than ever is really foundational education around disability being a life experience, something that people will understand all the different disabilities, the do's and don'ts, the history, the laws, the sports, all of it, so that they understand that there's a huge community of people out there that they will become a part of, but they should celebrate and become allies of, and then build an inclusion piece. And it's the work I do, so that's why I'm talking about it like an evangelist. But I think it will dispel the inspiration piece and help people understand that no matter what happens in your life, you always have options. And sport is an incredible universal language that gave me so many pieces in my life that I was able to put back together and then build a life. And that, I think, is one of the powers of sports that people don't really understand fully. So I thank you for letting me kind of go riff off, but
well, that's.
I hope I answered your question.
No, that's wonderful. As a matter of fact, I think we gave her a hand for that. Craig, talk about that. Craig was known as just a very aggressive racer, a very wild man, especially downhills, over at Spokane. I mean, willing to kill himself to win races, and of course, you won 8 here. Just were a great champion. Talk about the role of mentoring the older athletes. In many ways, the first generation of wheelchair athletes. Daniel Romanchuk, who's not with us today, is a 2-time champion. He's the new young blood. I mean, 21, 22 years old, just a stud. I mean, just a killer. He's going to be around for a long time.
He'll figure the sport out.
Boy, he is a big, strong young man. I don't know if he's discovered himself as of yet. But talk about the role of you guys mentoring this next generation, seeing new blood come into the sport. Because for a while there, we were seeing Krieger. I mean, God bless you, Krieger, but we were seeing 50-year-old guys still winning races. I said, where's the young guys? Because we had the hand cycling get involved, and it's easier to go from an injury to a hand cycle with gears than it is to get into a push rim. But now we got push rim back coming on strong. Talk about the job of mentoring the next generation.
Yeah, no, I think mentoring is absolutely critical, and even in our culture, you don't have a lot of folks. The younger folks want mentoring, but there's a phenomenon where they're not getting mentoring from people that have gone before that have experiences, but they're being mentored by their peers. And so imagine someone that doesn't know anything mentoring someone else that doesn't know much. Mm-hmm. And so what I love with sport, a couple things I love about sport, is Candace alluded to that it's a uniter. Everybody connects with their physical body, and when everybody's done something physical, and so we all have that connection, which is really good. And then as the wheelchair racers that have been around a while, it's funny because when I started racing, I was the young guy, and no hair, and I'm the old guy now, right? Exactly, pink hair back then. So, but coming alongside some of the younger athletes, and Daniel Romanchuk is a class act in so many ways. And I remember at Bloomsday sitting next to him saying, hey, I've got a couple things that I wish I knew back then that I'd love to share with you. And the beauty of that whole conversation is a half hour later, I got a call from Kim, Mom, and she said, I heard you have a conversation with my son. Let's have a talk about it. And so she's there working because there's so many people. There's so much mentorship that's happening in our sport. And it really is a beautiful thing, and especially the people that have gone before that can say, here's just some of my experience. I hope it benefits you. And then to have people that are willing to say, tell me everything you know. And it's been really wonderful.
That's great. Any questions from the audience? Why don't we get a group picture of everyone now, then later on we'll bring up the runners, and afterwards we'll bring everyone for a big group picture. But right now, for those sort of huddled together a little bit, I'd still love to see, like in an expo, like the treadmill for you guys, and then have just folks get into a chair to try it themselves. I remember days when if there was all arguing about fairings and you couldn't have a chair, had to be a certain way. It used to be just 4 wheels in front and short. I would love to see that look like drag cars, drag racers. Get regular folks in there to try it out, just to have an experience of what it's like and what it feels like. That'd be kind of cool. Anyway, that's happening?
That is happening in a lot of places where it's set up and people can come in and they can try it. And and I just want to just take a moment and thank you for your support of the wheelchair division through all these years. You have been one of the people that knows the history, and you talk about it, and that is so important for it to grow and go beyond what we have now. And I know everybody across here is just really grateful what you've brought forward for us. So thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure. Oh, yeah.
Tony, it's true. Back in the running and racing and the elite racing, and like I watched those old VHS tapes, and you're the commentator. You're the voice in the background. So when it comes to wheelchair sports and what we've done, you're the voice of that. And I second what Candace said.
Well, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Fun to work with you guys.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great sport. You guys go after it. I mean, that's what it's sport, right? All right. Thank them all.
Yep, thank you.
Wish them luck. Next up, we're going to talk about the Etna Mile. Now it's its 24th year. What a great... road racing used to be one race once a week, once a year, and then next would be go dark for 364 days. Now it's an entire... Well, the board works a long time, and the race directors work their butts off for months at a time. But we have racing going on all weekend long. Then the Etna Mile is a big part of that, and we'd like to give a shout out to Chris Montrose, who's repping our partner Etna for the Etna Mile. Chris, thanks for joining us here. But I think part of the field this year is led by a young lady, an ex-Florida Gator All-American, Corey McGee. She competed for Team New Balance in Boston from 2014 to 2018, and just last year moved to Boulder, Colorado with her coach. Corey, are you in the house? Is Corey's not? Corey's not here. But we do have Dana Giordano. Dana, are you with us? Dana, come on up. Dana's living in Boston now from New Jersey. She was a Dartmouth All-American 8 times, or 8-time Ivy League champion. Is that correct? Well, congratulations to you. And Garrett O'Toole. Garrett, come on up. Garrett's a 401 miler now, but he's hoping to be a sub 4-minute miler come Saturday evening. He's the 2013 Tommy Cockery High School Mile champion. I think the second fastest guy ever in the state of Massachusetts in the high school mile. And Garrett, here, you got that? Garrett, who are you running for right now?
Right now I'm running for Arizona State University.
Oh, you're a grad student down at Arizona State?
Yeah.
Now, how do you like Arizona? It's not Massachusetts.
It's a little bit different. It was 1:13 when I left for this race, so I'm happy to be here.
Oh, it's the dry heat, though, don't you know?
It's the dry heat. Yeah, that's what they all say.
As if that makes a damn difference. So how's your preparation gone? I mean, here you are, you got this grand tradition, having won the 2013 high school mile, the Tommy Cockery, and now you're in the pro field. How's that feel? That's a great little ramp up here.
It feels great. It's a great step up, and I'm happy to be continuing my season here. I've been recovering from a sacral stress fracture in March, and so I'm happy to be kind of rounding into form and having the chance to take a shot at a sub-4 mile. So,
Dana, talk to me about your year so far. How's it going? What's your last competition? Didn't you win this award? What'd you win recently? Did you win something?
I ran last night at the Martin Richard Mile. I won that one.
Yeah. Oh, you won that exactly.
Yeah. So I joined the BA full-time professionally back in February, and I also suffered an injury. So it's similar to Garrett, coming into form and trying to break 4:30 in the mile tomorrow, and just kind of understanding what the professional scene is now and kind of extending the season further.
How do you manage an injury? It's such a weird thing. Runners, everyone tries to do as much as you can while being injured so you don't lose your fitness, because I always say fitness is like hand packing ice cream upside down in a sauna. The minute you stop doing that, it all plops out. You can feel it just rushing out of your body. So how do you manage that? You're trying to keep fitness, but not keep your injury going too.
Yeah, I think as runners, we have the hardest time stepping back and doing less. So I think as you get older, you get a little bit smarter and realize that it's okay to take some time off and let your body heal. But also having a really good support staff of knowledgeable people in your corner who can diagnose you properly and prescribe you the right exercises to get back on track and kind of see the larger picture, my goals to run the Olympic trials next year. So kind of keeping everything in perspective of longer term goals.
Garrett, talk about the Falmouth Mile, the Etna Falmouth Mile and the Tommy Cockery Mile. It's such a great bragging rights race. There's very few races. Obviously, for high school kids, there's no races this time of year. Even for pros, once the nationals are over, if you don't make the world team or the Olympic team, there's very few opportunities. So where does this fit in?
I think this is a fantastic event for pros, especially getting to race the mile distance at this stage in the season. It's a great event, and it brings the community together, I think, before the Falmouth road race, and gives a lot of the road racers a chance to kind of kick back and watch an exciting event the night before. So I've really enjoyed the atmosphere here, and I think, again, it's a great event for pros to kind of begin to wrap up their season with a very competitive event.
Are you both going to run the 7-milers on Sunday?
I'll be out there, yeah. We're not sure what pace yet, but we'll see how I'm feeling that morning.
Yeah, we're hoping we're going to run slow because we ran so fast the night before.
Exactly. All right, let's wish them all the luck in the Etna Falmouth Mile. Thanks, all.
Thank you.
All right, now let's get some of the 7-milers up here. We begin with who are we going to begin with? Oh, a 2012 champion. Got second last year in the women's race, Margaret Wangari. Margaret, you here? Come on up, Margaret. Nice to see you. You get the choice of chairs, Margaret. Abby McNulty, a Stanford grad, 10th at the NCAA 10,000 this year, is with us. From Attleboro and Bishop Sheehan High School, 3-time Mass All-State champion. Mile, cross country, and 2-mile, now living in Charlottesville, correct? Oh, here. Hold that for me. So, and then next up we have, one of the great champions, He won more NCAA titles than anyone in history. 17 for the University of Oregon. Went to high school, was a big sensation in New Jersey. Kenyan-born, 3:49 indoor mile, third fastest in history. Just ran his PB for 5,000 meters in the end of July. Edward Cheserek. King Ches. Congratulations on that. And one of the great champions, the greatest road racing champion in Falmouth history with 4 titles. No man had ever done that before. He was, I think, 3rd or 4th last year. We'll find out. Stephen Sambu, a University of Arizona grad. Well, Stephen, let's start with you. What did you get last year? 4th. Leonard Career is also going to be running the race, and you guys had a tussle in 2017. You got just out-leaned him at the tape. Why do you and Falmouth have this love affair? Why do you always do so well here?
You know, I think Falmouth is almost like home, because when I come over here, I always run well, except last year. But 4th place last year, it's still good. So, you know, I always enjoy racing in Falmouth because of its obstacle, like uphill, downhill. I enjoy it.
It just fits you perfectly. Yeah. But you're also preparing. Now you've turned a corner a little bit in your career. Now you're heading toward, you become a marathoner, like you ran Chicago last year in your debut. Yeah. But you got another marathon set up for this fall. Can you tell me about that and how this race fits into that program?
Yeah, so because at the end of this year, November, I'm doing New York Marathon. And Falmouth is the best place for this course is almost like New York course. Mm-hmm. So this is really good for me. So I was planning to come train for New York Marathon over here in Falmouth over here.
It's the faster, shorter version of the New York City Marathon. Yeah. Just no bridge. Well, one bridge. You got to go over the bridge at the start line.
Yeah.
Well, let me talk to Margaret here. Margaret, nice to see you back. You got 2nd place last year. How would you say your condition is this year compared to 2012 when you were the winner, last year when you were 2nd place?
I think my shape this year is a bit good.
Closer a little bit.
I think my form is a bit good this year, and I'm looking forward, as in 2012, the history to repeat is itself in 2019.
Well, that's good. What was your last race?
My last race was in WAF to WAF. There I didn't do well, though I was position 2.
So, but you think you're ready to go?
Yeah,
for Sunday?
I'm ready to go.
Abby, tell me about coming back. I mean, Attleboro, that's just up the block. I mean, up to 495. I mean, you're close to home. This is your road debut at home, coming back as a 3-time masked all-state champion. Obviously, you've lived. This thing is twice as, almost more than 2 times older than you are. You've lived with the Falmouth. You've heard it your whole life. What's the sensation of being on this side of the camera this time?
Yeah, no, it's awesome to kind of come back to New England after being on the West Coast for the past 5 years and kind of transition into this next phase of my career in debuting in, Massachusetts, where I raced all through high school. So pretty cool to be able to get on the roads and, have family and friends around in doing so. So super excited. I never actually raced, even though I live 45 minutes away. So very excited.
Is this just by luck alone, or it just was a plan? Oh no, I want to.
This is kind of like after I graduated in June. Was like, I wanted to get on the roads post collegiately, and I've always wanted to do Falmouth. So I think this was just kind of like the focus race. Like, why not do it here? Because I knew I was going to do a road race. So this just was a great opportunity.
And what's your condition? How you come in? What's your form?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've been kind of preparing for this the whole summer, so I'm excited. I mean, the goal is to just get as high a place as I can and just see how the roads treat me, and just get out there and put my foot in the water in this kind of first type of race after college, where it's obviously a different level of competition. So just get out there and see what I can do and go from there.
You'll have more support than anyone, I'm sure.
Maybe, hopefully.
Edward, you're doing this is your first Falmouth as well, and I was saying this is the only guy who probably he could win the mile and then come back and win the 7 miler. I mean, that's how good he is. He's run 3:49 for the mile. Maybe there's 2 or 3 guys in the world who could do that. Mo Farah at the top of his game could probably do that I mean, Kenenisa McKellen maybe could have done that, maybe, but there's not many guys. Talk about how you chose the 7 mile, because you just ran your personal best over in Belgium for 5,000 meters at 13:04. Is that indicative of your form?
Yeah, I chose this time to come here. I was scheduled to run the mile and then to run, maybe come back the next day and run the longer one. But 10 days ago, I kind of a little bit like, hamstring problem a little bit, and I was like, you know what, I probably want to do the longer one. That's kind of like there's no more sprinting than the mile. But in terms of like form, I think I'm still in all right form, so I didn't lose any training. So I was just like 2 days off and coming back running again. But a couple weeks ago, I was in Belgium. I ran 13:04, and I went back to altitude training, and everything is going well apart from a little bit injury.
You're such a great all-around runner. One of the women in the Sarah Hall is going to run in the 7 miler, and she's won the 5th Avenue mile. She's run well under 2:30 for the marathon. She's Pan Am Games champion at the steeplechase. You're one of those who can almost pick any distance. In your heart, what are you? What's your distance in your heart?
When I was growing up in high school, I thought I was going to be a 10,000 guy, so 10,000, 5,000, but I moved on to probably 400. And growing up right now, being professional, it's very challenging, but I probably think I'll be okay on the longer distance. But I haven't run anything longer than 6 miles for the last 3 years in terms of races. So I used to run 10,000 in college, and then after college, I dropped down a little bit to mile, 5K, 3K. But this is gonna be a longer one, and I'm excited to kind of moving up slowly. Maybe one day I'll be like that guy.
I think they were talking earlier. I don't think there was a lot of advice being given. Just friendly chatter. Any questions from the house?